And welcome everybody to another Mark Bishop show. As you know, it's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. The old cliche, but it is like that with people too, because on this particular show, I have liquors all sorts, meaning that professors to sex therapists to oh God, you name it, every walk of life. But that's the idea of the show because I like interesting people and I like to hear their stories. And I like for you to share what their stories are all about, like this lady. Her name is Angela Skurtu. You may have heard of her actually. She's a speaker, an author, couples and a sex therapist, and a YouTuber and a podcaster as well, a member of the clan, so to speak. And she is at St. Louis Marriage Therapy, LLC. You can look her up from there. And if you want to email her, you can do all of that too. So Angela Skurtu, which she was raised in St. Louis, Missouri. She got her bachelor's at the University of Hawaii and her master's at the University of Oregon. No dimwit, huh? Which was the better university, Angela? And welcome.
Oh, thank you so much. And I loved them both for different reasons. In Hawaii, I used to do my homework on the beach. So I would take a little 20 minutes to do homework or study and then go swim and then come back and study for another 20 minutes and swim. So like University of Hawaii was really great for like the sunshine and being out on the beach. I would say University of Oregon, I just loved the training I got there. It was a very impactful training that started my career. So it was I would say it really got me ignited for this field. So they're both
Mhm.
wonderful.
Both wonderful in their own way, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The beach one appeals to me.
I mean, that's a great way to study. If you ever like, I don't study like others. Some maybe you need to go surfing.
Right. You've run a six-figure business now for what? 13 years, right?
Mhm.
You've been very successful. What's it about?
Well, so I'm a couples and a sex therapist. And I mean, I do a lot of different things, but my main bread and butter is helping couples who are dealing with a bunch of different issues. My favorite case client actually is the best friends who have friend zoned each other. And they need just a little push in the bedroom to get back, get busy again, basically. But so I work with couples. Another way of putting it is like anything a couple fights about, that's what I have to be good at. Which is a wide variety of topics, to be honest. And then
Right.
I also, like I said, I speak, I teach, I write. There's a lot to running a business, to be
Oh, tell me
honest,
about it. And
right? And
you're a solopreneur, right?
I am a solopreneur, but I do have teams, right? So even solopreneurs do have to have people on their team to make it work. Like I really
Oh,
can't do it by myself.
yeah, it gets a bit too much all for one, doesn't it?
Yeah, what I try to do is organize in such a way that I get to do the stuff I love, and then
Right.
I delegate or outsource or streamline the things that I don't love.
Oh, that's smart. That's smart. It's almost sounding like that career you're in. You've got to be a bit of a psychologist as well.
I think
Mhm.
marketing is a bit about psychology, right? Like you have to kind of understand how
Yeah.
people think and what makes them like want to come to
Well,
you.
yeah. And it's often known as, a taboo subject, so to speak, but that's I want to get into it, and we will a little bit more. I just want to get a bit more about you for the viewers to understand who they're dealing with. Um,
hmm
you've written a couple of books. Tell us about those.
All right. So the two books I've written, one is called Helping Couples Overcome Infidelity. It is a therapist manual, but it is written for both clinicians and
Mhm.
clients and therapists. I write all of my books in very plain language because I want anybody to be able to read it and say, "Oh, I can take something from this."
Right.
In that book, one of my favorite things I did in the chapters is I share a good story and a bad story. Like this is what happens in like that magical, like they did it, they figured it out, they're making their way through this issue. But then
Mhm.
I also share a story where it was a train wreck basically, and I just did the best that I could with the couple at hand. I did that intentionally because for clinicians reading it, I wanted them to see that like there's not all rainbows and butterflies when it comes to
Right.
infidelity. It is a wide range of outcomes. It's a very challenging topic to treat. And so I really wanted to bring that human element. And I found my clients like that too, because they're like, oh, okay, well, where are we on this spectrum of hope for this issue? So it's a very helpful way to look at it too.
Right.
And then
Right.
the other book is Premarital Counseling, a guide for clinicians, which again
Right.
is written for both. And it just covers milestones and helpful things for couples to talk about in that premarital time. But what's funny is I even use it for people who are post married to just teach them these are like communication skills that help. These are ways to keep the spark in the bedroom. These are things that help you to have an idea of what are the needs in a relationship that we need to be managing.
Right, right. Yeah, the needs of a relationship. Okay, so premarital counseling and helping couples overcome infidelity. I gather they'd be on Amazon, no doubt. Once you pick
Yes, you
them up
can
there.
find both on Amazon for sure.
Now you are writing a third book. I don't want to, spill the milk, so to speak, but you are doing a third. It's coming out. Do you want to
Mhm.
talk about it at all, or just I know
Yeah.
you don't have a title for it yet, but
Yeah, well, and so it's funny. All right, and this goes to like selling sex as a business, right? So my business is as a sex therapist and couples therapy, but part of what I'm selling is like this idea of how do we have a better sex life, right? And
right,
so even in figuring out this title for the book, I have to be thoughtful of the language that I use because I know we all hear that phrase sex sells, but actually it doesn't sell mainstream. It'll sell in that sort of underground sort of like, oh, if you go to like this little place or that little place on the internet, but like mainstream in a sort of way that you could just take that book off the shelf or read it on the airport while you're waiting for your flight.
right.
It doesn't sell in that sort of mainstream
Why,
way.
why
There's
is that, do you think? What stops that?
well,
Embarrassment in case somebody
I'm
spots you reading it, or what?
I'm writing about just this topic. What the problem is that so the way I see sex is sex isn't complicated. It's actually our relationship with sex that's complicated. It's our country's relationship with sex that's complicated. All the things that you were taught growing up, all the beliefs that you were given or not given, all the shame that's been added to sex, that's what makes sex complicated. Actual sex is just people touching body parts and finding what feels good. Like at its
Right,
basic level, that's all you're doing when you're having sex. But because we add all of these complications and relationship to it, then when somebody is sitting at the airport reading a sex book, they might be, what if somebody sees this? Is this okay? Should I be reading this? Like I've
right,
even thought of marketing actually, like having these covers that are like playful title covers. So like a book cover that basically is like accounting 101, basically topics that nobody really cares that much about reading or wouldn't ask you a question about.
well, you never know,
You never know. But so anyhow, I've been workshopping the title, and right now I'm thinking about like about sex or it's not a bomb, it's just sex, because I'm really trying to like promote sex as a wholesome, normal,
Right,
natural part of life. Like it isn't this big of a deal. Like I really want to neutralize it for people. And so as I'm workshopping that title, actually, if any of your viewers want to give me ideas of like, this would be a good title, I need something that is kind of more mainstream that won't
right,
scare the potential readers away, but also gives that little like,
right.
I'm interested.
Well, I'm looking forward to when you bring it out. Well, maybe we'll do an interview. I do another show called Nothing Like a Good Book.
Yeah,
And
that's a
I
good.
interview authors, and there's some
Mm-hmm.
interesting. Well, they're not that well-known authors, which is good because I'm
Mm-hmm.
helping them get up the ladder. You know what I mean? But maybe that one, the third one, there could be quite interesting. You never know.
Absolutely. Well, and I'll be posting about it on YouTube when it's published, so of course people can
Which of
follow me
you very
there.
busy. You do have a YouTube channel, don't you? What is that now? What's the
So
address?
just look up my name, Angela Skurtu, at YouTube, and you'll find my YouTube channel. And I just put different
Right,
relationship skills. They can be from the sexual health perspective, relationship health. I even have parenting skills on there. Because again, doing couples therapy, you have to be able to talk about anything a couple fights about.
right, right. Well, yeah, people come to you for advice. That's the bottom line.
Yep.
They're not coming to you to look at a porn movie, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Interesting. And you just said all they got to do is look up Angela Skurtu on the
Mm-hmm.
YouTube channel, and they find you. I wish mine was that easy. My name, Mark Bishop. Apparently, there's quite a few of us out there, and
Mm-hmm.
on YouTube. And I had to run with people couldn't find me, and then I had to run with 9360, a number at the end of it all. And then
Mm-hmm.
my web guy just said to me, "Look, just do / Mark at Mark Bishop Media
Mm-hmm.
Business podcasts." And apparently that's working now. People are going straight to it, which is good.
That's
So that's
great.
that in hand. Now
That's
you're a
why I
busy
love the
boy.
weird name, for example,
Well,
because it's
yeah. I
like
mean, how many
strange.
Skurtus are out there?
Not many.
On any given day, you're seeing clients, you're getting interviewed for podcasts and
Mhm.
articles, you're writing a book, speaking at local or national business conferences, and so on. But on top of it all, you're still a mom and a wife and a friend.
Hmm.
The obvious question, how on earth do you handle it all?
I This is a great
Obviously, you've got a
question.
team.
No, this is an important question for all business owners and entrepreneurs because
Yes.
I think that it is foundational for business owners to have a good self care and work life balance in some
Hmm.
way, shape, or form, which includes eating healthy, exercise, taking breaks, like actually stopping for lunch, perhaps for an
Hmm.
hour, getting
Hmm.
your brain off of doing constantly.
Yeah, that's a
Um,
very good idea.
well, we need it. We need breaks and you need downtime, right? So, like, how I do it is the work that I do has to have a good work life balance. So I have an end at a certain time in the evening. And actually, I just spent all weekend training for something called a sexual attitude readjustment, where you challenge people's values. So if a weekend like that occurs, where I've
Hmm.
worked all weekend, then I offer time during the week to take time off. So like I take actual time off. I
Right.
try to keep my hourly
Good idea.
hourly caseload of everything, not just
Hmm.
clients, every bit, every little project
Right.
to around 40 hours or less. And there are set times in the evenings where I really am a wife and a mom and I just hang out and I even have my own hobbies. Like that's the other thing. I love working with entrepreneurs because they have so many big ideas and they want to do this, this, and this. And I always love to ask the question, and what do you do for fun? And
Yeah.
they're like, well, I work for fun. I'm like, no, no, no. That's work. And it is great that you're passionate about your work. For anyone who's listening, who's a cool entrepreneur, I love that you're passionate about your work. And you need to have something else that's very different than what you do, like
Yeah.
roller skating or Legos or I don't know, painting of some sort. You need other things.
You got to
And
be
so I
able
just make
to
sure that I have hobbies.
stretch the mind. So you help with desire discrepancy, infidelity, co-parenting issues, finance issues, wanting to have better sex. I mean, at the end of the day, a couple would come to you with issues and problems based on their sexual life, if you like, together.
Mm-hmm.
It's either him or her. I'm interested to understand, are there specific age groups more than ever? Is it 5 years after marriage it goes out the door? Is it seeing other women? Is it the woman or is it the man? I mean, how does it all come together?
That's a big question. So
With
I can
your experience of 14 years, come
well,
on.
I can tell you there's certain age time frames and life cycle time frames that people come in. So
Right.
for example, one common time for sexual problems is right after the second baby. They
Really?
have yes, so like they have a good sex life until after the first baby, and
Uh-huh.
then they struggle with their sex life at that point, but
Hmm.
they know they're going to try and have sex for another baby, and so there's a little bit of like having sex for procreation that they do that makes them feel safe, or like it's not a big deal, it's just baby stuff.
Hmm.
And then they have the second child, and that's about a year later is when their sex life tanks. And that's when it's usually a year or two after second baby that I'll start seeing people come in and say, hey, we're not really having sex much, we're struggling. You got to think about that time frame, right? Young children, they
Hmm.
are overwhelmed, there's a lot going
Hmm.
on, and they probably, so this is something I've been talking to a lot of my people about, is who's in your childcare team. So a lot of people are trying to do it by themselves, just the mom and the dad or whatever parents, even if they're not male, it could be female, female, male, male, whoever, whoever you are,
Right.
however you were designed. But so if there's only two of you and you don't have a childcare team beyond the two of you, then that's part of the reason that prevents them from being sexual, is they don't have like someone
Mm.
they can rely on for dates or someone they can rely on for, like, I mentioned having a hobby. How does one have a hobby if they don't have childcare or time to
Right.
be an adult and
Right.
not
Well,
a
I can
parent?
see the mother with two, a baby, the second
Yeah.
baby, and the other little one pulling on the leg.
Yep.
Between all day as a domestic engineer trying to run that company with headaches and God knows what else, and
Mhm.
then so hubby's busy, tired too. But at the end of the day, his testosterone is up or whatever, and there's problems, right?
Yep.
No, I've got a headache, or no, I don't feel like it, or
Mhm.
this or that, or
Yep.
it's such a psychological thing. There must be thousands of couples
There are.
Literally hundreds of thousands of couples.
There are, and these days both parties are working now.
Yeah.
It's more rare for one person to work and one person to stay home. Like they're both working full-time jobs and then doing full-time parenting and
Right.
trying to figure this out. And
Right.
some of them are doing it in isolation, and that can be the problem. Some of them have help, but they struggle to seek the help because there's also a mommy guilt that many women struggle with. It's funny, I don't hear the term daddy guilt, but I think that it
Just
can
explain
go
that to
both
me,
ways.
Angela. Just, if you'd be so kind, just explain
Yes.
that to me. A mommy guilt.
Yes, mommy guilt is when a woman feels like she needs to be responsible for everything, like all of the emotional, physical, psychological needs of a child to the point that she neglects her own needs and desires. And
Hmm.
so, like, she can't even, like, even if she has childcare, say she does have a childcare team, she won't take it because she feels guilty that she's not the one giving the needs to the child. And so, like, they won't go on dates or they struggle to take that leap away from the child and take couples time because they feel like, and like I said, it's not just mommies. I see daddies doing this too. Like couples can do it as a team. It can just be one partner, but it's
Right.
this feeling of I need to be everything, the be all for this child. And if I'm not, I am doing something wrong. And
Right.
I think it's just a weird cultural shift that has taken place
Mm-hmm.
that needs a little more balance. Like, yes, you can be there for your child and you can have a personal relationship with your partner and you can be your own person. But we in American society, I think it's a real struggle. Like people basically have working kids and that's their only focus.
Right.
Which to answer that question, there's a second group that really struggles. And it's the ones who just put their nose to the grindstone and raised the children and just made it all about the kids. And then suddenly the kids get independent. I mean, they don't need you forever.
Right.
The hope is that you're making yourself obsolete as a parent at some point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
so as the children become independent and go launch, that's the other time that's most common. And so I get
Hmm.
older couples who are like had different plans for what happens when the kids are leaving and we have our independent time. Like one
Right.
partner might be like ready to have sex and be back at teenagers, and the other partner might be like, I've lost touch with you. I don't even know if I want that in my life. And
Right.
again, that could be any gender too. Like I've noticed that it really varies, but that's the other time where people tend to come in for sexual problems.
It sounds like to me that I think the old date night, okay, is a very important thing if it's kept up. That
Yeah,
couples should work at, perhaps.
I would say so. I mean, I think it's very important to have the date night. I think so. This is my unpopular opinion. That's probably going to make some
Well, you're
waves.
not losing. My point is, you're not losing sight of each other. You're not growing apart. You're still socializing. You're still getting out. You're still getting made up or
Yeah.
dressed up, and respect for each other, to want to look
hmm
nice for each other, to go out somewhere, just
Yeah.
like we did before and just after we got married. You know what I mean?
I do. Well, so the opinion I wanted to share is like divorced couples, couples who are co-parenting. If you
Hmm.
look at their custody schedules, they actually have custody schedules that are set up in a way that they can have couples time with their new partners, family time with their kids, and
Right.
even some time for themselves. And so it's unpopular, but the reality is I think that divorce custody schedules are a great like visual for how if you stay married, what could you do to like create a space where you get couples time, family time, and individual time. And you'll hear this, like people who are remarried, they'll say, oh, I love this part because we get like weekends that are just devoted to us, like they're new partners. But the
Right.
reality is they needed that in the original marriage to
Right.
make it work, and they don't do it. And so I mean, it's unfortunate, but that is how people are ending up getting it, is in their second marriage.
Angela, we've run 19 minutes and I haven't even brought sex up yet to a degree. And I'm
Well, I mean, I've
speaking
been
with a
talking
sex
about it to some
specialist, you know what I
degree.
mean? Kinky sex, kinky sex. I've got to understand.
Oh, okay.
Does that cause some fights or what? Do
Um,
people come to you wanting that?
yeah, of course. Everybody wants to spice up their love life, and not everybody knows what they mean by kinky sex. Kink literally just means different from a typical American sex. So a typical American sex is you kiss a little, you touch a little, you do oral sex, and then PNV intercourse, which is penis and vagina, if that's okay to say. And it's actually a very boring sex. Like you can do it that way, but it's only one of multiple ways of being sexual. And so a lot of people are coming to me to spice up or kink up their sex life and just see what else is out there.
Do you give them a book of Kama Sutra by the bed?
See, Kama Sutra is still doing the same thing. You're still just ending with that P and V intercourse. It's just different positions. Like everybody, when they think of kinking, they're like different position. I'm like, did you know your whole body is sexual? Like, what are you doing to ignite all of your senses? What are you doing to make this a full body experience? What if somebody doesn't have an erection or someone doesn't have access to pleasure down there? Are there other ways that you can find to be intimate and sexual that don't have to include those parts if they're not working for the day or for a period of time? Because sexual problems are actually a part of life. They're a natural part of life, right? At times people deal with erectile dysfunction.
Let's face it, how many divorce because the closeness is gone? That want for each other, although it could be down there, they don't know how to express it.
Yeah,
and pulls them apart. You go into sex therapy. I mean, what? I'm trying to get into your head and the job you do to sit there and say, okay, guys, what's wrong? Who's doing what? Do you ever recommend sex toys to them to go shopping or anything? You do?
Yeah, if it's real, I actually have a 70s style briefcase under the desk right now with all of my playful sex toys because I like it. I got it from a garage sale. My uncle, he's like, "Would you need a briefcase?" And I'm like, "Absolutely."
Right.
So people, they see it, they don't know what it is, and then I bring it out, and I'm like, "All right, let's talk about some sex toys."
Or movies? Do you ever recommend movies to them to watch together first or anything?
Yes, I have
15 X-rated or whatever.
I will recommend them, but first I have worksheets I've created that help people to watch sexual content from a neutral and curious space. Because if you just send people things to watch, what they'll do is they'll watch it from that critical mind. And they'll be like, oh, that's gross. Why would you do this? I don't want that. So first I have to prime them and neutralize. Because again, this goes back to what I said before. It's sex is not complicated. It's your relationship with sex that's complicated.
Of course. That's the issue, isn't it?
Yeah. And so I have to train them to neutralize and open-mindedly watch those things. And even with that, that doesn't mean you have to try everything you see. It just means be open to considering it and talking about it first. And then I will recommend different shows. There's even great Netflix shows right now. People can watch How to Build a Sex Room and Sex, Love, and Goop or Principles and Pleasure. Those are all on Netflix. So they're at least in enough of a range that you could just watch them on Friday nights. They don't even have to do a subscription anywhere unless they don't have Netflix. I don't know. I think everybody Netflix is in chills to some degree, right?
Do any of them ever confess that they try swingers clubs or?
Oh, yeah. That is actually one of the things that I do is if people are interested in exploring ethical non-monogamy, I at least try to give them some best practices for how to do that in a way that is safe for them and that is exploring it. Because the thing is what typically happens is people just jump right into the deep end of the pool. And then they come to me because they feel like they've gotten burned in that experience. And I'm really a fan of dipping your toes in the water. Take a small experience, try it out, get to know people who are swingers, for example, and talk to them about what they did to get into this space. And then over time get there. But most people, not everybody comes to me before. Usually they're we have a unique culture in that we don't like to get help until everything's broken.
Everything's done. Yeah.
So when they do come to me before, I can absolutely teach people how to do that in a respectful and even fun way. But if it's the opposite way, I can still help.
So, what on earth got you into this industry?
A lot of things. One of the things is, it's religious trauma. I was raised in a pretty conservative religious background that really shamed sex. And as a result, a lot of the women around me were getting married very early. And then a year later, they'd all call me because I was still the person everybody would talk to. And they'd say, I'm not enjoying sex anymore. I'm just doing this for him. And I was like, well, there's a problem because we were basically taught that if you wait until marriage, then once you're married, go have fun. It's fine. But once you've trained somebody to believe that sex is bad, sex is evil, sex is wrong, you don't just switch that over after you're married and I'm fine, unless you're a rebellious spirit and you didn't listen the whole time. It's going to consciously shut down your natural desire. And so that's what really actually got me into this field. That, and I used to watch this really funny lady, Sue Johansson, who would like play with sex toys on the TV and show everybody, and she'd rate them, and she'd be like, take questions. And I said, I could do that. That sounds amazing, and I can't wait to do that.
Right,
And so
right.
those two kind of formative stories really got me
Sounds
into this
appalling.
field.
So what do your folks think of you? You know, you're doing this.
Oh, my father and mother. My mother loves it. She thinks it's hilarious.
Right.
My dad is a preacher, so he accepts that I do it, but I would not say he approves. And he loves
Well,
me though. So like
you
it's one of
know,
those,
I
I
don't
don't know
know.
why you do this, but I accept that this is how you've chosen to live your life.
You know, it's a tough one, isn't it? You start talking about religion, and God wants you to be happy and fulfilled of the
Mhm.
beautiful bodies He gave us.
Yeah.
What kind of clients um, do you mainly get, would you say?
It's a mix. So I would say I have really marketed to those best friends who just want that push. So I get a lot of best friends who are just trying to reignite their sex life. I do get a lot of infidelity clients since I did write the book, and I would be considered an expert in the infidelity field.
Mhm.
And then it's all across the gamut, you know, like I have people who want to try different kinks or who want to become ethically non-monogamous. I have people who are just there because they're struggling with parenting and how that impacts their intimacy.
Right,
Because, of course,
right,
if you're fighting about your kids right before you're trying to have sex, like that impacts things. So
right.
I always say that sex therapy is life therapy. You really have to like improve the whole quality of life to improve a sex life. But really, it's so interesting how many different kinds of clients end up seeing me because when you start working on sex, what you end up doing is developing skills for other parts of your life. It's the most
Hmm.
vulnerable topic, right? So when you
Right,
learn to
right.
negotiate for your needs when it comes to sex, or when you learn to own your sexuality and your sense of who you are as a sexual person, that impacts who you are as a person day to day and how you interact in this world.
Okay. Now, what about those that come to you that, how do I phrase this? Maybe have been pushing down inside them how they really want to feel and express themselves as people, i.e.,
Mm.
lesbian, i.e., homosexual, i.e., bi.
Yeah.
You know, that surely that's tough.
Especially by men. That one's the one that's become more common. That challenge is like when a man is coming to terms with his own bisexuality, and it's
Right.
just not a very accepted. Like so, it is at least accepted and sexualized for a
Hmm.
female to be a bisexual because they're like, who wouldn't want to see a woman kissing another woman, right? Like there's a way we sexualize, and
Hmm.
um,
There's more and more of it, I notice, coming up on television now, in
yeah,
shows and even in
hmm
ads. Even in ads, you know, couples
yeah,
aren't the traditional and the you know, the
hmm
male female, everything's perfect and the world's lovely.
yeah,
It's more real now of
hmm
girlfriends and boyfriends and so on. But I just wonder, you know, when you're in a sanctum sitting there, and if the guy bursts out and finally says it, what are the reactions of the women? How do
it's
they take it? Do most of them scurry, or do a higher percentage say, you know, sorry, darling, I didn't realize, you know what? It,
Well, the reality is that is how it happens, right? That nobody, like people come to terms with who they are as sexual people sometimes later in life. It would be nice if we could do it early on so we could have like a conversation with our partner about, hey, this is who I am and this is what I've
right,
learned about myself. But
right.
because our relationship with sex is not a wholesome and healthy one, then people are needing to hide parts of themselves for longer periods of time. But something happens when you hit your 30s, your 40s, your 50s. I've seen it like again and again. People want to be themselves. They want to feel that authenticity. And so there's a part of that that's like finding your sexual self and really owning who you are. And so it tends to happen as people get older. And of course, they're already coupled, right? And so there's a
Yeah,
wide range of responses. It depends on each person's emotion regulation skills, like their ability to manage themselves and take care of themselves. It depends on their open mindedness to different ways of sexual being. But I've seen all kinds of responses. I've had people who've been very compassionate and tried to figure out what to do with each other. I've had people who are like, this can't happen. We're going to divorce. And in situations like that, people have to figure out if they are going to repress that or if they're going to accept that this is a part of the situation, but nothing's going to happen with it. And
Right.
I mean, my job is to help people figure that stuff out. And I won't say there are always easy answers, right?
Well,
That's
you
why
obviously care about people. You know, you've got to love
yeah.
people, and you've got to have a kind heart to do this work, I think, because nobody's bad. They're all God's children, and I just think this way, or I think that way, or this bothers me, or I need to get this off my chest, or whether it's kinky toys or something
Mhm.
you should try together, or what 51%, I think it is, divorces now in America.
I mean,
51%.
it's usually around that 50% mark. I don't know the
It's
specific
pretty
number
high,
because
isn't it? When you look at it.
it can teeter for sure.
I just, the breakdown. Number one, I know that people marry too young, miles too young. They haven't even lived, haven't sowed any wild oats, haven't seen the world, done nothing. Think they so madly in love, but if they
Mhm.
could just hang on, hang on. I didn't marry personally till I was 47.
Mm.
Career took a lot of that away because I was a Rolling Stone, in the media for many years, and it's very difficult to settle. But I was brought up, one marriage, one life, till death do us part, no matter what.
Mhm.
And that's old fashioned now, I know. But and people are living together, not getting married.
Yeah.
Then you get into babies, you get into all different issues again, and all that jazz. How do you sell? I was going to say, how do you sell sex um, in another way?
Well, walking a very tight rope, really. So I'm on YouTube, I'm on Google, but those mediums are very strongly censoring things that are related to sex, and so I have to be very thoughtful about the content that I put out there.
Mhm.
But I also am trying to be my authentic self too, right? So I don't consider myself like that X-rated or even that R-rated of a therapist. I actually work. I'm in my local business chamber of commerce, right? So like I have
Right.
to talk to people on a
Yeah.
regular basis about
Oh, here
sex.
comes Angela. She's the sex bird.
Oh, they love it. They're like, yeah, we have one in the group. It's fun. But like I have learned how to PG it up, so to speak, and make sure
Right.
that the way that I'm talking is thoughtful of the people around me. But for some people, even the mention of sex is like, oh my gosh, what's she doing here? you know? And so, I mean, that's so actually in certain groups. So I've been in the Bible Belt for a really long time. This is St. Louis, right? And
Excuse
so
me.
even my website title is Therapist in St. Louis, which is very generic. And I was intentional about that. St. Louis Marriage Therapy. I didn't say St. Louis Sex Therapy. I don't have a website that's a sex therapy site because I
Right.
wanted people to be like, it's okay. She's a therapist. She's a therapist.
Right.
Like you've got to like calm the nerves of the people so they know like, look, I just talked to you. And that's the other thing is like it's talk therapy.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, but
talking to people.
well, this is it. But a lot of mums and dads and people don't realize, how many women go to these celebration nights, whatever it's for, where there's male
Mhm.
strippers, right? And it's
Yeah,
all women, or they go to these shows that are filthy comedians or whatever.
yeah, sure.
Women have an outlet.
hmm
And women can do their things if they want to. You know what I mean? And but the one that worries me is infidelity. Right now, you
Yeah.
must get enough of these, right? Because infidelity is very difficult from a male perspective. You can look but don't touch, like a menu. I mean,
Well,
you can't help it. It's everywhere. You understand?
and that's so I have a whole video series about micro cheating. And what micro cheating is basically it's monogamous couples who haven't had real honest conversations about where the lines are for crossing in
Oh,
their
okay.
relationships.
Right.
So there are, due to social media, there are a wide range of ways to cheat on your partner now, just a whole menu of them.
Yeah.
And not everybody agrees with what those lines are, right? So what I do with people who are kind of in that middle ground where it's like somebody kind of crossed a line, but they didn't even know it was a line. Here's an example. So on Facebook, is it okay to like somebody's post? Well, I mean, it should be or shouldn't it be? It depends on your values. And if it's the person of the opposite sex, is there a certain number of likes that start to bring a red flag for me? Or is it no, just whatever? It's Facebook. Facebook is Facebook. It's not a big deal. Like when does it cross the line? Or for example, even in compliments. So these are the conversations I'll break down with couples just to get them being clear with each other about what their boundaries are. My
Right.
job isn't to tell you this is what is cheating and what is not, other than cheating to me, the definition is going outside of whatever your agreed upon boundaries are in the relationship.
So let's get this straight. The very first thing you're talking about is you set the boundaries.
Yeah, but people
That's
aren't
number
setting
one.
the
You've got to have a
boundaries.
discussion to set the boundaries,
You
right?
have to have an overt discussion about here's
Overt
what I
discussion.
think are the boundaries that are crossing out of our relationship agreement. Because, like I said, some person might like someone's Facebook post and be like, whatever, that's not a big deal. A very different person will say, no, you keep liking this one person's post, and that's this, maybe your ex-girlfriend or something, right? Like,
Right.
when does it become disrespectful? When does it feel like it's crossing the line of our relationship agreement? And couples need to have very direct conversations.
You talk about Facebook. I hate the thing. The worst thing that ever happened in the world was social media. I'm telling you now, it's killed conversations, couples, divorces, God knows what, children in trouble. Oh, here's the deal: meeting somebody and having lunch, business lunch, drink after 5 o'clock. You're right, and it leads to other things. Next minute, you're in their bed. Now, that to me is infidelity. But then again, hey, if I had the conversation early with the cheese and kisses, right, the missus, the boundaries were, you can do what you want to do, but don't bring it home.
Yeah, and see, I wouldn't agree with you on all of those boundaries for myself, right? So, like, me and my partner have to network as a part of our jobs all the time, right? Like, I just did networking this morning with a guy. It was breakfast, but like, I don't think networking and having a conversation about a business would be in the cheating category.
No. I didn't say having that was. I'm saying if it went further, infidelity is if you're married to somebody, you're married to them, right? You're supposed to love them and they love you. And the biggest thing is trust. To me, it's trust.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but like, this is how far I go with it, right? So like, even networking, for example, some people would say, I'm fine with you networking in the morning or at lunch when I know that it's a daytime activity, but doing drinks alone with somebody after work feels like crossing a line for me.
Okay.
And so, but they may feel different about it being in a group situation. Like if you're going to a group, because there's those after hours networkings that are group things, that feels okay because that's everybody going there. But if you're alone drinking with somebody, what are you doing drinking? And again, I'm not telling you whether these are right or wrong. I'm telling you the conversations that happen in my office.
Yes.
And all I care about is helping them get on the same page so that they're not unintentionally hurting each other. Because what's crazy is a lot of times it's unintentional. It's like, I didn't even know that would have made you feel that way.
Communication. It's marvelous, isn't it? Communication. Unbelievable. So why do you think people cheat?
The number one reason,
than you get tired of each other.
I mean, actually, the number one reason is opportunity. It just was
opportunity.
Yeah, opportunity. The research suggests that just the opportunity presented itself, and you didn't think you'd get caught. I mean, it's not good reasons. It's like, there's no noble reason to cheat. I mean, it's like their paths cross. Usually they start talking as friends, and then it gets a little flirty. And then one thing leads to another, but it's a husband of one and a wife of another who are both going through just a rough patch, which everybody goes through rough patches, but then their paths cross.
We have to work through them together.
Yeah. And instead of them talking to their partners about how they're struggling, they kind of find solace first with another person, and the friendship gets deeper, and then they cross little boundaries and get a little flirty. And then before you know it, they cross, and then they're cheating. And what you'll find is so interesting. I asked them, like, did you think along the way? There's a way their brain almost like shuts off a little bit. Like they just do it. They don't even think about it. So then when you ask later, why did you do this? They'll be kind of confused. Like, I don't know why. I knew it was like, I know I shouldn't, but then it's because there's like, I always say this, but so it's shameful. It's wrong. But there's underneath shame and like, oh, you're not supposed to, there's a deep intoxication. There's a little excitement to that taboo. And so I think that fuels the fire and draws people into crossing those boundaries quicker. And really, of course, what we all needed to do was just talk to our spouses originally about, hey, I recognize that I'm feeling drawn to this other person and I don't want to do anything, but I'm feeling this in me. Like I'm recognizing that I'm feeling unfulfilled in our relationship. Can we talk about this? And that's actually the kind of conversations I get them talking about for prevention, because you can prevent infidelity
Okay.
people are having honest conversations when they're feeling that draw away.
And what about after the event? You know,
After an
guilt,
affair,
guilt. What about after an event? He comes home and I've got to tell you something. You know, how many of those do you get?
it all depends, and not everyone feels guilty. Like some people feel guilty, some people feel it
Some
depends on the
don't.
kind of affair it is. If it was an exit affair, which is when people are kind of already grieving the loss of their relationship, but they start cheating before they actually divorce or end it, they
Right.
don't feel any guilt. They feel kind of entitled to doing it.
Okay. Move to another slate because it's very hurtful. It's painful.
Yeah, and
Um,
they in those situations they may feel like they did try to talk to their partner and their partner never listened or did anything about it. And so there's a way they've already grieved the loss, kind of like cancer. When people have a partner who's dying of cancer, there's a way people grieve along the way,
yeah.
not just afterwards. There's a way people grieve the death of their relationships as they're going through it.
Right, right, right. And I mean, it must be one of the ones would be very hurtful if you've got a girlfriend, a close friend, girlfriend, who's
Mm-hmm.
perhaps playing up with your husband or Vicky Verka, you know. I guess that adds to the pain even more. But do you think it's possible to have a healthy, happy marriage?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, I'm getting married, and I've had a really healthy, happy relationship with my partner, and I've seen other people who've had healthy, happy relationships. I
Hmm.
do think it takes a level of work. I think there are certain personality styles that definitely work better with each other than
Hold
others.
on. Right.
So it's not just like people always talk about like the work of marriage, right? But like there are some relationships that are way harder work than others. And
You
that's
have
why
to
some
work
people end
at
up
it.
getting
Yeah.
divorced
Yeah.
because when they then get into that second relationship and realize, oh, this is way easier work. Like there is work and effort, but it shouldn't be so heavy that you feel like you're sacrificing your own health and well-being to stay in the marriage. And
Right.
that's where like that work
Right.
is probably not good for you, you
Right.
know?
It's almost like you wish you could, you know, have a magic ball or something that could tell you, no, not a good, not a good. The closest thing to it that we have, if you're into astrology at all, is relationship uh, blending
Yeah.
that you've even got a chance with. You know, you can take that with a grain of salt. But married people can have good sex, right? Or should they
Oh
just give up
yeah. They can definitely have good sex, but they
with
do
your wife?
well. Good point, Mark. And yes, they can have good sex. Yes, they can have good sex with their wives. But one thing that does have to happen. So everybody typically has a honeymoon period in the first 1 to 2 years of a relationship. There comes a point after that honeymoon period where they actually have to put intentional effort into their sex life. Couples who know that that's part of keeping their sex life strong, then keep up a healthy sex life. And part of that work is just communication, being direct and open, and being willing to sexually evolve with each other.
Right.
Those are the couples who have a good sex life. And I do know couples who've been together 20 years and are still just madly and erotically in love with each other. But the couples who go through that honeymoon period and then start to lose their desire but don't put any effort in at that point will just have a slow trickle away until they hit dead bedrooms. And like I said, it usually happens after second kid. And either
Yeah.
they'll come and get my help or someone like me's help, or they'll just put their nose to the grindstone and keep doing kid stuff for the next few years until it resurfaces after the kids go away, because that's one of the things they'll do to justify it. They'll say, you know what, this is just the time that's about our kids, so I'm not gonna worry about this. I'm gonna compartmentalize my sex life or my lack of sex life and just focus
Right.
on this for now. But
Right.
then once those kids are gone, you can't compartmentalize it anymore because they were still thinking, okay, but they're gone now. So what about us? Can we do us?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's too late, my love. I've got this bimbo around the.
I mean, that happens too. I will
Oh
always
dear, oh
have a
dear, oh
job.
dear. So in closing, what's it take to keep a strong sex life in a long-term relationship? In a nutshell, what are your recommendations, boss?
A couple things: good communication, clear, direct communication, a
Mm-hmm.
willingness to evolve sexually throughout your life, and a neutral relationship with
Willingness
sex.
to evolve and
Evolve and
discussion,
neutral.
open with
Yeah,
each other.
evolve, be open to new things, trying different things, exploring
But
different sensations in the body.
discussing
Yeah,
sex, right?
very
Because
clear
couples don't do
communication
that,
about
do they?
sex, talking about sex, talking about your interests, desires, things you like, things you don't like, things you'd
Right.
like to try. unique ideas to fantasies. Yes, you have to have clear, direct communication about sex in sexual experiences and out of sexual experiences. Sex being a
Right.
casual conversation. So that it's
Yeah.
not like, oh my gosh, sex is a bomb. It's like, yeah, I was thinking about this sexual thing. Oh, interesting. Well, I've never thought of that. What do you think about it? That casual of a conversation. Serious.
Women
I
are
want
better talkers than men, and women can relate. They share. They can sit down at a table with a nice glass of wine and relate and talk about things. A lot of guys are eggheads. You know what I mean? They're just
I mean, I know some pretty emotionally
Neanderthal.
intelligent
They
men.
don't talk. They don't open up. They hold it all inside. Massive
Yeah,
Virgos.
I
No,
know
but
quite a
yeah.
few emotionally intelligent men who can talk and can even
Well, that's
talk
good.
better than me about some sexual topics. So I think
There
it
you
just
go.
depends on how you educate yourself. But they also need to evolve, and you need a neutral relationship around sex. So that means not negative or positive, just a curious open mindedness to see what's out there, explore different sensations.
Right.
Like, not that sort of, oh, sex is bad or evil or dirty. Like, no, sex is sex. It's a natural part of life. It's okay.
Yeah.
Like, it literally created you and
Do you
me. Like,
do you ever have conversations, for instance, with the couples where he might say, or she might say, no, well, it'd be him first, I would imagine, there's this absolute doll, on the TV in a series or something or other, and you
mhm.
know, high heels and suspenders and really spunky. And maybe he'd like to say, "Oh my God, look at that! Wouldn't you love to get that?" Right now, the woman can say, "What a hunk!" Oh, the big guy comes up with muscles and this and that. Is that therapy in being open?
Yes, absolutely. I think all of my therapy is teaching people to be open-minded and to go back to like where boundaries are. Some couples, it is okay to just talk openly about, oh, I think that man or that woman or that person is hot. Like some couples, it doesn't hold them back or they don't take it
Right.
personally because somebody finds someone else attractive. There are attractive people all over the world. Like
That's it.
to think that you will never be attracted to other person is an unreasonable expectation.
Oh, hopeless, hopeless. That's what I
It's
started.
silly.
That's why I said, you're a look but don't touch. That's the old adage. Once you're married, sort of thing. It's
And
no matter
some
how much.
couples look and don't necessarily touch, but do complement together. Some couples look and touch if that's the boundaries they're setting. Because again, I work with ethically non-monogamous folks too. So there
Right.
are couples who have ways to touch.
I think there's something in this business where you're going to have 10 wives. You know what I mean?
I mean, as long as each of those wives is consenting and open to that relationship style, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, right.
And if they're not, then you can't. Or you have to find somebody who is open to that.
Angela Skurtu, that's Skurtu
Yeah.
at gmail.com. Is that's no, that's your, they can get you there too. But here's the thing I really want to give you folks, the therapist St. Louis.com, right? HTTPS and so on, www. Therapist in St. Louis.
So it'd be
Right.
St. Louis.com.
St. Louis. All right. Well, I was taught St. Louis. It's very hard pronunciation. But you have I'm from Melbourne, Australia,
Mm,
right? All over really, but Melbourne. You have a Melbourne, don't you, in America?
yeah. Well, I mean,
Tomato, potato,
I try to listen to people's accents, so I'll say Melbourne if that's
Well,
what
I
you
heard
say
one
it's supposed to
yesterday
be.
which surprised me because I always thought it was, come on, I should know it. It got flooded, the famous jazz place, New Orleans. I know. I
Nolans,
used I
yeah,
used to say
Nolans.
I used to say New Orleans, right? New
Hmm.
Orleans, and someone said, "No, no, 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 it's New Orleans." No, oh, okay. And yet, I'm watching a news report the other night, and here's this dude, a dignitary of all people, says New Orleans. I
Hmm.
thought, oh, okay, so it's not New Orleans.
I mean, everybody can do whatever they want, right?
Whatever you want, whatever it is, go and have some good sex. The lady that opens the bedroom doors.
Yes.
That's who she is, Angela. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. I've learned a lot from you today.
Thank you for
And
having me.
it's people can contact you how? Share that.
Well, the real place I want people to find me is on YouTube. So if you can connect to YouTube, it's Angela Skurtu. Just look Angela Skurtu up on YouTube. And you did mention the email. So people can email me. They can submit a contact form at therapistintstlouis.com. My ask is that you like and subscribe on YouTube and submit your comments. I do respond to them, and I learn from y'all too. So if there's anything people are like, I want to learn more about this, send me a comment. Maybe I'll make a video about it.
Right. Now that's good. You can learn from followers, right?
I learn
And
from them all the time.
it's same for me. Ditto, folks. Appreciate any support. Do the like thing and everything else you've got to do. And by all means, I do say you could send me an email to mark@markbishopmedia.com. Love to hear from you. Any comments? I'm trying to find fascinating people and keep it light. No heavy politics. We've got enough of that around us, haven't we? This is fun. And it was a pleasure. And I thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Goodbye.